I was probably, I'm going to say one of 5 or 6 last people that had a chance to visit with him before he got in the car that day. So it's a good memory for me to just share that part with him and, coming down the track, but talking about turkey hunting.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We are What a race! California's Kevin Harvick does it. Tree making right there. You're the man.
Welcome to Kevin Harvick's Happy Hour, presented by NASCAR on Fox, and you can follow along with us on YouTube or anywhere else that you get your podcast, and anywhere on social media at Harvick Happy Pod. We've got Bill and Tyler Jordan here today. They're owners of Realtree and longtime friends of mine that have been through a lot of the racing moments and episodes and just all kinds of fun times through the years. Bill was actually my first sponsor at RCR. He kind of broke the ice with Richard Childress and was on my ARCA car in 1999 at Talladega Superspeedway. So the Realtree brand has been on my car or my helmet or something since I was in the car that particular day, all the way until the very last day in Phoenix. So welcome. Thank you guys for taking the time to actually come to the studio. So that
Absolutely.
that makes it even more fun because of the fact that we get to show off the set and all our fancy technology and cameras and everything that we have that we have. So I thought it would be really cool for you guys to come in here today. I've heard a lot of the stories, but I think a lot of people will actually enjoy a lot of the time that you guys have spent and taken and been a part of the sport, been a part of drivers' lives away from the racetrack. And I thought it would be fun to bring you guys in here. So just kind of give us the background of actually how the Realtree brand started in NASCAR racing, because it wasn't yesterday that this started. It has been a long run for the Realtree brand. But tell me and our listeners how you guys got started in NASCAR and why.
Well, it was a long time ago. And in our ARCA car that we ran in 1999 as your first sponsor, but it started really 12, 15 years before that. And, my friendship with Richard Childress and obviously with Dale Earnhardt and Davey Allison back in the day, the three of us met on a hunt together, of all things. And, you can imagine Dale and Richard, how crazy he is about hunting and fishing, and Davey was the same way. We all met on a hunt with Buckmasters, and so automatically and immediate, we had a friendship going. They liked what I did. They liked the hunting side. Even though I followed NASCAR, I wasn't in NASCAR. And so from that original hunt with the three of us, with Richard and Dale and Davey, we just all decided together we were going to hunt together. So that original meeting back in 1987 was the year that we all met. And then obviously we stayed in contact with each other and hunted and fished and did all the things that with Richard. But it has been a long time.
Well, I think when you had your relationship with Davey Allison, that actually started as a relationship in the souvenir business, correct?
That is correct. Davey, a lot of people don't know that. Unfortunately, Davey passed away in a helicopter crash, and Davey and I were business partners on his souvenir rigs. And back in the day, it was just incredible. What Davey sold and Dale did, at trackside. And, Davey actually came to me in 1990 and said, no, I need for you to do our souvenir rig. And I kept telling him, I said, Davey, there's no way. I'm trying to get this Realtree thing started, it's a business, and I just don't have the expertise in running souvenir rigs. And so he kept trying and convincing me. And so we did come with souvenir rigs, with the 28. We did, yeah. We housed them in our hometown that you've been to in Columbus, Georgia, and the souvenir rigs, and went to racetrack, and we got a day-to-day guy, to run the operation. And just unfortunate that Davey didn't get a chance to see everything. And, he was one of the favorites, obviously, at the NASCAR track. But just a lot of good memories of Davey, and then Dale and Richard and myself, after that, started hunting a lot together. And so it kind of originated from that original hunt in 1987.
So you were in the souvenir business for a long time, obviously with Davey. So you got to see the transition of how things changed to where they are pretty much up until a few years ago when you guys took your trailer off the road. But how was it different from when you guys started? It seems, even when I started in 2000, it was almost a little bit of free for all, I guess you could say.
Yeah, it is
a lot less structured than it is today.
Well, our friend Chris Williams, Action Performance, ran the souvenir rigs, and it was a little bit of a free for all, and with Dale,
new.
yeah, and it's new to me, and so. It was just crazy. That's all I can tell you. The amount of fans that came to the souvenir rigs were just astronomical, and those rigs were just, and people be lined up for 100 yards or so, 200 yards, just waiting to buy merchandise. But it was a free for all, and a little bit more structured now, as you know. And when you got into the sport, souvenir rigs were still there. The business was still good. But I don't know, those golden years of 88 through maybe 92, 93 was just crazy.
What, you have any good stories of like how much cash you guys brought home at once?
Well, I was hoping you wouldn't say that.
Did you bring home a bag, or did you fly it on the plane?
You already know all those. You already know those stories. This is crazy, and yes, to answer your question, so you dealt in cash back in the day, and
how much?
How
much do you remember bringing home?
No, it's up there.
It's up there.
It's
millions.
It's up there. It's over $500,000, and
in a single weekend.
You would leave. Yes, you would leave. You've heard these stories.
Yeah.
You would leave the souvenir rigs, and there was no guards. There was nobody there, and so you would have $300,000, $400,000, $500,000, especially on a Talladega race, which was Davy's home track, and
right.
and so you basically put it in a garbage bag and. Kind of took it to the house, and on Mondays you would count it. And so if anybody really knew, which you can't do now, thank goodness, but if anybody knew and they wanted to walk away with $200,000, $300,000, $400,000, just meet you at the door at the back of the souvenir rig. But fortunately, nothing happened.
Wow. So Davey dies in 1992?
91 to 92, yeah.
I think it was 92.
92, yep.
And you have to transition out of your relationship with Davey from the souvenir side of things.
We did.
So how do you wind up with Earnhardt?
Well, we all hunted during that period. Davey, Richard, and Dale, and myself, and we kept all those relationships going. And we had a television show on the Nashville network, TNN, called Realtree Outdoors, and so Dale and Richard both were a constant guest on those shows with me, and but we enjoyed just being around each other. So it was a real easy thing, and it even up all the way through the 90s. I can't tell you how many times Dale was on Realtree Outdoors and was Richard, and those relationships were just there. The friendship, just very similar where you and I have and Tyler have right now. So it was easy.
How did the sponsorship start on the car with Dale?
Well, we've been hunting and fishing together for about 10 years, and probably about 94, 95, I actually told Richard, I said, look, our business was new at the time. I didn't have a whole lot of money to be able to put big sponsorship on cars, and so we did a deal with Dale, and Dale said, let's get the B post and the C post, and let's get it started, and that's what we did. And the relationship with both of them, with Richard and Dale, was very good for our business. Back in the time, being in the camouflage business, and so it just went from there. And obviously Dale's winning races, and back in the day with RCR, and so it was a good thing for us.
Do you remember the first time you met Dale, or what was the first memory you have of meeting Dale or being around him?
Dad's probably going to remember this, but a memory that I still have to this day. I was probably, I don't know, maybe 6 or 7 years old. And Dale actually took me in the garage, and we were gone for like 2 hours. And like he was, I think, worried sick. This was before cell phones. I didn't have a phone or anything. Dale didn't have a phone with him. And we went around, talked to different crew members. I'm sure I met some different drivers.
First, he wasn't supposed to be in the garage.
There's more to the story.
There's more in the story. First, he's not really supposed to be in the garage.
Yeah.
Of course, obviously, with Richard and Dale and everything. And I'll never forget, Dale walked up to me and said, tell your daddy we'll be back in a little while. And all I can remember, 6 years old and Dale walking off. Well, 2 hours go by, and I have no clue where my baby boy is, but he's with Dale.
Yeah.
So
we were, and like at the time, obviously, like I had no idea how big of a deal that was. Like even when he came to the farm and turkey hunted, I was like, man, this is just one of Dad's hunting buddies.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, then, now looking back on it, I realize how special those times were, but I do remember, being gone for a long period of time. And then, having him and Richard at the farm in those early years were, special memories.
Yeah, but you were gone. But what were you doing?
we were just in the garage. I don't even know what we were doing. I think we were maybe
just roaming.
Yeah, we were just roaming.
He got a 6 or 7 year old now. Yeah.
roaming around.
And like I just followed him around, and he
Yeah.
held my hand through the garage, and we met, I don't know, different team members. A part of maybe some of his team members. I'm not even really sure.
Yeah.
But we were gone for at least an hour and a half.
I got 2 funny stories. So the first time I met Dale, I was with Hornaday, and we had decided that we weren't very good at golf, and we were going to go and we were going to get some shotguns. So this is probably 98. So Ron Hornaday was driving for Dale, and he went from the truck. He was probably still in the truck, probably in 98. So we go in there and we walk straight upstairs. We bust through Earnhardt's office door, and he's sitting at his desk, and he's got his glasses down about like this, and he looks over his glasses. What the hell do you two want? he's got piles of papers sitting on his desk, and we sit down, and Hornaday says, well, boss, he's like, we want to go learn how to shoot a shotgun. He said, what in the hell do you want to go learn how to shoot a shotgun for? You two idiots will shoot your toes off or something happens. Shouldn't you be outside in the shop working on your race cars? And so we go through that whole spill. And finally, you remember Danny from Remington? So he calls Danny from Remington. He's like, can you come get these two morons and teach them how to shoot these guns correctly so that they don't injure themselves and can still drive this race car? And he gets up and takes his glasses and throws them on the desk. And he tells Hornaday, he says, go outside and get the truck. Kevin, you come with me. And we start walking down the stairs, and then he starts explaining everything that he had going on at DEI. And we go back behind the shop, and we go into this room, and it's got knives and guns and everything.
Deerhead shop.
Yeah.
Yep. Right behind DEI.
That's exactly right. Yep. That's exactly right. So we go into that room, and that's where I got my first gun. So that was where I got my first shotgun was from Dale. And he gave myself and Hornaday a Remington shotgun. And to this day, I still have it, but that was kind of where the outdoor piece of it started. And then, so we went a couple years, and we go to Michigan to announce the AC Delco deal. And I'm same kind of deal, walking around with Richard. He's showing me around. I'm, 23 years old, and just everything there is great. And we're going over to the trailer. We do our announcement. We walk over to the trailer. He's like, come on, let's go see what Dale's doing. So we walk up in the 3 trailer and walk up in the lounge, because we're like 15, 20 minutes before practice. And we walk in, and it was absolutely nothing that I never thought I would see in my whole life. But I walk in, and there stands Dale Earnhardt. You're thinking, this guy in this big GM Goodwrench suit. He's got his underwear on and two gloves on his hand. And he's like, hey, Richard, how you doing, Kevin? And he walks over, shakes my hand in his gloves, standing in his briefs. And I'm like, well, what's happening in here? He's like, well, I got to wear these new gloves. And so I don't like them if I don't wear them for a while. So he's just standing up there in his race gloves and his underwear.
Oh, yeah.
Walking around.
Just in between, I guess, getting in his driver's suit.
Yeah. So that was my first 2 really
lasting memories
of Dale Earnhardt. So it was always entertaining. So as you go back and we go back to the relationship with Dale, and you talk about those early days, there has to be, to me, Dale was always pretty, is this fair to say he was pretty high strung and always in a hurry? Is that fair?
That is fair. And you know people that have known Dale, and you've been around him as well. Dale was always quick to give you advice. Yeah. If even friends, and you've heard stuff, I know with Dale Jr. and stuff, but he was quick to give you advice and about something, whether he was right or wrong, he was always right. And I say that in a complimentary way, not a bad way. But he was always thinking about something all the time. You're absolutely right.
Was he an anxious hunter? Or was he
not as much as Childress? He had a heap more patience. The most anxious hunter I've ever seen in my life was Richard Childress. Yeah. But Dale was somewhat patient, and he wanted to get the big one, and he loved competition. He didn't want you to outdo him, so he was very competitive, even in the woods and fishing or whatever he was doing. But he was a little anxious. Yep.
Did he like to get past on dirt road in the snow?
Several. Well, they were rental cars, so that's how they were not my cars, but they were rental. But we had a little bump or two, in the rear end. And
were you in his car? Where were you?
No. With the story you're probably trying to,
Iowa?
we were in Iowa, yeah,
Okay.
and we were Iowa, and we were hunting with good friends Don and Candy Kiske at the Kiske place, and it was Dale and I and Ned Yost. Ned's a former third base coach of the Atlanta Braves and also for the Kansas City Royals. They won the World Series, and Ned was a good friend of Dale's, and Ned was a good friend of ours, but we were in Iowa, and but Dale loved the competition side, which we all know, whether it was on the track or off the track, but he gave us a little bump from the rear on the county road, and David Blanton, I know you know David that works for us. David was driving, and we were behind on a county road. It is cold as could be. Snow's coming down, and we're going from one place on the farm where we were staying to where Don and Candy were, and we were going to sight in shotguns for slug gun season, and so we're following Dale on this county road. It is probably about 14, 15 degrees. And David looks at me and says, I'm going to pass Dale. I said, no, we don't need to be passing Dale.
You were in the car with David.
Yeah, I was in the car with David. So Ned and Dale are together. And so David gets a running start on that county road. It's got snow drifts on both sides. And I said, no, it's going to be payback if you pass him. And so David just floored it. And so we pull out. Dale does not see it coming. And I'll never forget, we get side by side on the county road. And I'll never forget, Dale was driving, and he looked and saw us passing him. And you could see it through his face. His foot went, he went fast. And we pulled around him. I said, he's going to spin us out. I'm just telling you right now, he's going to spin us out. So we're on this county road. Thank goodness no other cars were on there. And sure enough, he gets up there and gives us a little tap, on the back.
Yeah.
And I said, we got to go up here and make this turn, David. He's going to spin us out right here on this road. So Dale backed off a little bit. So we go down this road. I said, we got to stop. There's this barn where we're going to sight in the guns. And I know it's coming. And so we get to the barn. And so sure enough, 2 rental cars, boom, boom. And I just sit there. We're all stopped. And he gets out. And the only comment he said, y'all don't pass me again. That's all he said. He said, y'all don't pass me again. And I went back and looked at the back end of our truck, the front end of his, and we had a little dent. And so we had to turn it in on our insurance, get it fixed before when we returned the car.
You didn't claim ignorance on that one. You just,
it was just,
you knew you were in trouble.
I was in trouble. No, you knew it was going to happen.
Yeah.
And Dale played that way.
Yeah.
I mean, he was, he liked competition. Didn't like anybody getting one up on him, but we did return 2 rentals with dents in them.
Did you ever hunt with him, Tyler?
I don't think so. I don't think I ever did. I mean, I think I was always like when he came to Circle Inn in Alabama, we had a lease over there. And I remember, Dave and Richard and Dale came and hunted, but I was always at camp. I don't think I was ever in the woods. I think Dale was probably worried I would have slowed everything down.
You said Dave. Are you talking Dave Marcus?
Dave Marcus, yes. I mean, so Dave, I have pictures in front of the Circle Inn, sign, the lease we had over there with Dave and Dale both and Richard. So, I mean, I have probably 3 or 4 pictures, from different times I hunted there.
Was Rich or Dale involved with everything that Dave did at this point, or were Dale and Dave friends?
They were friends.
They were.
Yeah. Well, I think when you go back and ask Richard and everything, Dale and Richard really tried to help Dave. Dave did a lot of testing, for RCR and
pretty sure he
especially
tested.
the 3-car.
No, and I'm pretty sure he tested a lot for Dale, but I know he tested the Daytona 500 88 or 1998 car.
Really?
Yeah.
And
Dave Marcus.
Dave Marcus tested.
Yeah.
I think Mike Dillon and Dave.
Yeah.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Well, we tested all the time for Dale. And so that sounds pretty much par for the course, because in 2000 I started doing the testing for Dale, and we because Dale would never, if it wasn't Indy or it wasn't the Daytona test before the 500, he was not going to test. And at that particular time, you couldn't. Yeah. There was no limit. Like, you just went to the racetrack. So we lived at Talladega and Daytona testing. Yeah. And that kind of branched off in 2000 over into doing the testing with General Motors. They were trying to develop a new shock system and new suspension and everything that we had going on. So really during 2000, we did all the testing, and the first, we would spend like 2 or 3 days a week at Kentucky doing the downforce testing. So we took that car that we were testing, and they actually took my seat out of it. It was actually one of Dale's cars. And so we took the seat out of it, put his seat back in it, and they took it to Indianapolis. They got it to Indy, and they unloaded both cars, and Dale gets there, and he goes out in his car and makes a run, and they said, okay, now get in this car, and goes out and runs 0.9 of a second faster than he did in his car. So we've been working on this stuff for months and months and months, and comes back in, and they said, wow, that was a lot better. And he said, well, what's in this car? And at that point, like Dale and Rusty and all those guys, they were very into the springs and the shocks and everything that was happening on their cars. So they had this kind of common mindset of, well, it needs a 800-pound spring, a 900-pound spring, 250, whatever that was at that particular time. Well, this car was nothing like that. It was really the kind of the next generation of springs and shocks and suspension and the way that it was. And they told him, I said, well, it's got 3 500-pound springs and a 200-pound spring in the back. And by the time they got done, he said, you load this motherfucker in the truck and don't ever bring it back to the racetrack again, because I am not driving anything that has those springs and those shocks in there. And he wouldn't drive it. No, he would not drive it after that particular run. So they put it back in the truck, and he never drove it. And we won a ton of races that year. Well, we continued to develop his car and the suspension and that suspension package, and we took it all the way to the end of the year. Well, at the end of the year, we went to Homestead, and we were the fastest car there. Well, it was towards the end of the year, and he was at a point of saying, hey, might be time, might not be time, didn't really know when he was going to retire. So we were the fastest car at Homestead, and at that time, the media covered the test. So we came into the garage at Phoenix that next weekend, and his first questions, he was just getting hammered with, are you retiring? Why is Harvick testing your car? Your whole team's there with him, because I would take Kevin Hamlin and all of us would go together. And so I go walking through the Cup garage, because I knew that a lot of the stuff was starting to cycle in, and we had kind of started just being able to joke around and kid around. Well, he was not kidding around on this particular day. After his media session, he was mad. He rounded up myself, Richard, Kevin Hamlin, and that particular day, Dale Jr. just accidentally walked into the trailer at the wrong time, and he ripped our butts that day for going and testing, and he needed to be at these tests, and he didn't need to be answering these questions and this and that. And so he came back in, he went out, he practiced good, went out and qualified, ran over the apron, and I went back in the trailer just trying to be a smartass. I went back in the trailer, and he ran over the apron and qualified and kind of screwed the lap up. And I said, hey man, if you need a pillow to see over that steering wheel, just let me know. And that was probably not the right thing to say. So
he didn't react.
He didn't. At that point, I was still pretty young, and it's that generational thing, right? It's a different, you're joking around, but he doesn't think it's respectful to joke around. And so
that's funny.
He would get a little bit offended in some of those situations, but we were having fun. We were young and didn't care. And so that was kind of the end of 2000. And so, I mean, when did you think he would retire? And if he hadn't passed in 2001 with the accident, how many more years do you think he had left?
Richard and I had that conversation.
Yeah.
I think he's within a year.
You think so?
Or two, yeah, at the most, because I think Dale wanted to go out on his own terms. I'm not the one to be the judge and the jury on any of that. But Richard and I had conversations about it. I know they had conversations. And I think, at 49 years of age, I think he would have probably given another year or two to max,
Yeah.
What's your thoughts? I mean, you think he?
I think it was pretty close too. Yeah, I think we all kind of knew the time frame was right around that 50 number.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of it was just wanting to go out on positive terms and do the things that on a positive note, because they had put a lot of effort into the car. We had tested it a lot in 2000 and had everything squared away. And really that's part of the reason that we were able to get in that car the next year and be able to
car is very
run
Very
competitively right off the bat, because General Motors and RCR and Dale and just everybody had said, okay, we need to, it's getting towards the end here, but we can't go out not running good. We can't just go flop around. And so they had put a lot of effort into the cars and the program. And like I say, I think after Dale died and we were able to go out and run good in those first few weeks, it's because that everybody had put so much effort in, and we had been in the car a lot. So, but obviously everything happened at Daytona in 2001. And were you guys there?
I was there, and I don't know if you were there at that race, but
I was not at the race.
A lot of people don't know this, but on Thursday afternoon, I flew in, and that's when they were covering the practices on Friday and back in the day, and so when I got there on Thursday, he called me and said, "What new hats we got?" We had the Realtree souvenir rig there, and I said, "I don't know. Let's call Chris." So Chris Williams ended up bringing 3 or 4 hats, and so Dale and I and Chris went through the hats on his motor coach, and Teresa was not there when we were looking at hats, but he picked out this one particular hat. It was solid black with a camo Realtree number 3 on the front. So he said, "I'm gonna wear this one all weekend," and that was Dale's way of saying, I'm gonna show you products off. And we had the Realtree souvenir rig out there. So he had that hat, and he kept it all weekend, and he wore it. He did a ride around before the 500 with Terry Bradshaw, and so he had that hat on. And so that was I think they filmed it on Saturday, and it aired before the 500 on Sunday. But that Sunday morning, I get a call, and it's from Dale. He said, "Come over here, motor coach." And he and I walked into the track together. And so one of my good memories is walking through the garage, and coming through the starting grid, just me and him. And we were talking about turkey hunting, of all things. We had that annual trip, it was in February, and our season opened up in the middle of March. So he and I walked through the starting grid, biggest race of y'all's, career being the Daytona 500. And we talked turkey hunting coming through the grid, and stuff. And so when we got to the race car, I went off to the right side, and Teresa and Taylor were on the left side of the car, and he went obviously to them, and I started talking to Danny Lawrence. Danny was up there at the car, and as you know, I know a lot of the 3-car members that became a lot of your crew members after that. But I sat over there on the other side and didn't think anything about anything. Just another Daytona 500, and I can remember looking across the car back at him. And they had the track chaplain there, and they said a prayer, there at the window. So Danny and I were sitting there talking, and then, of course, I went on to our people, the suite, not thinking anything, was going to happen. But that was my last moments with him. And, I tell Tyler this. I was probably, I'm going to say, one of 5 or 6 last people that had a chance to visit with him before he got in the car that day. So it's a good memory for me to just share that part with him, and coming down the track, but talking about turkey hunting.
Yeah. Well, I think that's really the common thread that you've had with so many people in our sport. It's not just myself and Dale and Dave Marcus. I mean, for a number of years, you had group hunts that we went on that were fun as anything that we ever did, and really every year that we go to Talladega, for the most part, at some point we're going turkey hunting at Realtree Farms, and so I think that is not a surprising conversation that you and Dale were having. And I think as people hear this, they're gonna have more questions, and they're gonna understand that outdoor bond that you guys had was probably something that a lot of people didn't understand.
Well, I can say this right now, even with Tyler, but you and I have that bond. You and Tyler have that bond.
Right.
And the outdoors really probably put that bond even closer together between the Harvicks and our family, and Bobby Bonnie. We talked about Bobby earlier, and and Terry was just that common interest of enjoying the same things. And you guys have life away from the track, and I was very fortunate to be able to hunt with you, and you go on hunt with us, and it kind of clicked with you. We had so much good times together elk hunting, and still will. And so it's the outdoor bond really, I think. My relationships with most everybody in that garage is built around the outdoors.
You really get to know somebody.
And you get to know
It's just like going to a golf course or something. When you're in hunting camp with somebody for 4 or 5 days, I mean, that's when you really get to know one another and create a special bond.
Well, we went on an elk hunt, and I believe it was in Utah with Bobby and Terry Labonte. And most people would look at Bobby and Terry. They're like, oh, they're quiet and shy. They're
funny.
They have the best sense of humor that you could possibly ever ask for. And when you get them together and have a couple beers and you're in hunting camp, we had the best time that you could possibly ever have on that hunt with those guys.
Well, I would think this too. On those hunts, even though you knew drivers, y'all had another way to get to know each other better.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, a lot of the times that we go on hunts, that it was really neat to see, even though you know each other, you don't know each other in
Right.
some ways. And so the hunting thing kind of brought everybody together as a common interest. But it was fun for me to sit back on those type hunts and, you know, just have great memories of Terry and Bobby and Ryan Newman and Truex and everybody else. Just out, Dale Jr. went on a couple of hunts with us, you know, into Montana. So it was just a good bonding experience.
Well, we can't completely step away from the Utah elk hunt, because I think that is one of our better bonding moments that we have had.
We got close. We got close.
We did get really close. So, do you want to start with telling your
my version of it?
Your version of the story, and I fill in the blanks, or do you want me to tell the story and you fill in your version?
Let
Is
me
this your
tell you
first
something.
elk hunt?
This is my first elk hunt.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess if we back up a little bit, when we started in 1999, I wasn't really that into the outdoors, and so Bill and Realtree really introduced me to the outdoors and became something that I enjoyed being a part of and doing, and the camaraderie and the hunts and learning and turkey hunting and elk hunting. But for me, elk hunting is what I've learned to enjoy the most, because I think it's the most intense thing that you can do. But my first elk hunt was on this trip that I'm talking about.
In Utah.
In Utah was Bobby and Terry the Bonnie. I don't remember who else was there. Might have been Truex.
You know, I'm not, was
just
Terry Earnhardt on that hunt?
I don't remember who the others were, but I remember Bobby and Terry and myself and you and Chris. And so this is my first elk hunt that I went on. This is Bill's version, and I'll fill in the blanks. But it was right in the middle of the rut, and that means that the animals are
Bugling.
very vocal, very
Chasing.
excited. And we walk into camp. We said, hey, let's go out and scout a little bit. We walk down the road. We start calling. And the next thing you know, there is an elk just ripping the trees down, coming through the brush.
And he's a giant.
And it is a massive, massive, massive animal. And I had never seen this before. But before we even got to the point of seeing that elk finish coming through the brush, do you remember the little baby moose that walked up the side of the mountain and scared the living crap out of us?
Yep.
It came walking up. It was like a slope like this. And this little baby moose just comes walking up from me to you and just standing there like,
Yeah, looking at him.
what are you doing, buddy?
I think we probably have that footage too.
You probably do. Probably have it. But go ahead. We're
No, no, you tell us.
So
I'm
we're
gonna say
there for like 3 or 4 days, and
you're doing good.
we're out and we're set up on this little plateau, and we've got, when we hunt with Bill, we have yourself and Bill, a camera guy, and then the usually whoever you're hunting with is up on top of the hill, just kind of glassing and making sure that they know what's going on. So there's a lot of moving pieces to it. So myself and Bill and the camera guy. Who was the camera guy? Do you remember?
Not so sure it wasn't Daniel. I think it may have been Daniel.
Might have been
Thomas.
Daniel.
May have
Yeah.
been.
Yeah. So anyway, we'll just for now we'll just call him the camera guy. But so we're set up on this little plateau, and we've got 3 elk. There's one on each.
We're calling. I'm
We got
calling,
one
and
straight
they're
in,
bugling. And they're bugling.
Yes, Bill is calling, and these elk, all 3 are coming in, and he says, "Don't shoot, don't move. Just let me keep calling. They're going to all meet together, and we're going to have a nice little fight.
Whatever.
We're going to have a little fight."
Yep.
And we want to get it on camera. And I'm like, okay. So these elk start walking in. Well, I can hear one of the elk come up on the road, and maybe the footage is different than this, but this is how I remember it. But I hear one elk. You can hear it. It's footsteps on the road.
On the rocks and stuff.
On the rocks.
And the other one's
rocks.
coming straight in. The one to the left is literally in the field right with us. And I keep looking back, and I can hear this elk right behind me, and I'm like, man, this thing is right here.
This thing is close.
And
I've seen the footage.
I
Yeah,
am
we got the
freaking-
footage. I'm just
I
seeing
am
if-
scared to freaking death at this particular point, because I've seen how excited these animals are and how massive they are, and I had never been in a moment like this. So these 2 are in the field, and this one is on the other side of this little pine tree, about from here to my
It's
suit.
big. It's kind of thick, if you remember.
Yeah.
It's hard to see through.
About from here to my suit,
Yeah.
Away from me, sitting on the set here, about 5 yards.
Yeah, it was close.
And Bill's like, don't shoot. Whatever you do, do not shoot. And I was like, okay, this animal is that close right here. I'm gonna
Well,
shoot his ass
we didn't
because
have
he is close.
even though it was close, it wasn't a good shot. You know, the elk wasn't far enough out.
It was behind me.
It was behind you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I keep hearing the animal. I could care less about these two because I know this one is right behind me. Well, I look over, and about that same time, this elk looks around the tree like this, and it is massive. And when I say massive, I mean massive. Well, it scares the crap out of me. So I just pick up my gun, turn to the right, shoot. And I missed from 5 yards. It skims off a branch over the top of the elk. And this elk is standing there looking at me like,
What the heck?
what in the heck just happened? Bill's fumbling through his pockets. What? What in the world? What?
I wouldn't.
What are you doing? What happened here? My first turkey hunt that I went on. Do you remember that one?
Not on Harvick Hill, was it? Which one?
No, that one was definitely not on Harvick Hill. The first turkey hunt I went to was not very good. So we went to the farm. You probably have this one on footage too. So we were at the farm, and it was hot in the miserable part of the day, right in the middle of the day. It was hot, and there was not a turkey gobbling anywhere in sight. But you had these new pop-up blinds.
Oh yes. Oh yeah.
He had these new pop-up blinds.
He's telling on me.
And
now.
Okay.
No, he's telling on me now.
Have you ever seen the movie E.T. When E.T.'s in the little covers himself up with the sheet, he's standing around. E.T.
All right, let me just set this up. It's hot. It is hot. And so these turkeys were coming to one of our fields, you know, and so I said, let's just do this. So we're just going to throw a pop-up blind up. We just sit in here. It's hot. We'll just open up the windows and everything. And it's no sense us just, you know, going. These turkeys are coming to the field. So we had a pop-up blind. So you have to, the people who don't know, you have to open it up, and it's got springs on it. And so you can take it from there. So I'm opening up the blind.
Yeah. So Bill opens up this blind, and we've got lawn chairs set up, and we're just screwing around at this particular point. So he opens up this blind, and he's in there fumbling around, and it kind of folds up. Well, he's in the middle.
Pop it out, yeah.
He's in the middle of this thing trying to get it to spring open. Well, when it springs open, the whole thing just
pops open. Not like an umbrella.
Yeah.
You know, Bill.
Yeah. So I'm laughing outside because I have no idea what he's doing. And apparently he didn't have any idea what he was doing either. So he's in the middle of this.
Well, I knew what I was doing.
Yeah. Well, and this thing finally springs open, and all I hear is Bill has got his fingers that are in the middle of where hinges.
You know where the hinges are, and all
of his fingers are in the middle of these hinges and stuck, and it's got all of his fingers pinched, and he's walking around in this blind,
holding the blind up.
And I'm laughing so hard that I can't go over and help him to get the thing. It takes me 2 or 3 minutes to get composed enough to go over and pull down on this blind to be able to get it shut.
Free my fingers out.
But I mean, those are the things that I love, and you've got to experience that with so many people throughout the years. But for us, our families have become great friends, and through the outdoors and through racing and through the relationships that we've built. It wasn't just a name on the car, and you can see it on the helmets back there for a number of years. Since 1999, it's been a part of who we are and what we do, and we've created a monster.
No, well, you know,
oh yeah,
for years I've known you long enough, and of course him being young, but you are going to remember this, but I kept encouraging you to have kids.
Yeah,
you know, all the way through this
conversation a lot.
We had that conversation. I said, look, greatest thing will ever happen to you, and of course you were on a certain time racing and everything else, and so I every time I said, look, you're going to be a great dad.
Yeah, and now
Lane's going to be a great mom.
Keelan might love it as much as anybody in the group. I mean, we enjoyed, I know the last few years, having him down turkey hunting and then deer hunting this past fall. He's, got that competitive kind of mindset even when it comes to that. And, I think what's been a joy with him is just watching him take everything in, and like sitting in the blind with him a few times I did, asking so many questions just about why the deer are doing, certain things this time of year. And, so it's been fun, and hopefully, continue, kind of feeding his outdoor passion as we go forward too.
He loves it.
Yeah. Well, and you guys are gracious enough to be a part of his racing career. And it's been, the Realtree relationship has been on Keelan since he started racing, on whether his suit or his car or whatever it is. And that part is great. But the thing that I love is now we're the old. You're much older than me, Bill.
Yeah, I'm a lot older.
But
I
I'm
got
old.
you. I'm way old.
I'm old.
I'm up there with Richard.
But we're a different.
Yeah.
We're a different generation.
That's true.
And so Keelan doesn't like to hunt with you, and he doesn't like to hunt with me. He wants to hunt with Tyler.
Yeah, absolutely.
So every time we go hunting now, Tyler is the one that gets to go hunting with Keelan, and I've been in the blind with him, and some of those hunts I've been able to do with him, but I can't wait to see him hear his first turkey gobbling in this year, and for me, being able to see his passion for the outdoors is something that I never got to grow up with like that. But you guys are the reason that happened, and I think being able to share in what he does with the outdoors with you guys and just watch that grow. But you've done the same thing with Tyler and your company, and the way that you guys have structured everything has been fun to watch. So I guess we've got a couple minutes left. I guess the biggest thing for me is I just want to say thanks for everything that you guys have done for not only me but for NASCAR racing, because I don't think in the end people really understand the reach that the Realtree brand has had throughout the years. It started with Davey Allison, it went to Dale Earnhardt, but for a number of years, you guys had pretty much the whole field. Anybody who was a star driver on the Realtree
souvenir rig and stuff.
And I think that's something that a lot of people don't realize is just how many outdoorsmen and women there are that are in our sport. Our sport, NASCAR racing and the outdoors, pretty much
they go together.
They go together.
That's our customer.
That's your customer. Those are the things that the people in our garage, for the most part, love to do, and that watch our sport love to do. And whether it was on the Outdoor Channel or ESPN, or now it's on all the Realtree networks of outlets that you guys have, but it's been something that's been a part of the NASCAR DNA for a long time.
That it's been great for us, and I tell you, all the friendships and drivers are one thing, but a lot of your crew members over the years, outdoorsmen. Yeah, and we have a special relationship with a lot of the 29 team, as you know, and obviously with your current 4 team that you just left, and but those guys, when we go to the racetrack, we don't talk about racing. We talk about hunting.
I'm about to say some of my favorite and best hunting relationships come from within NASCAR. I mean, I've been growing up in the sport. I've been turkey hunting probably since I was 4 or 5 years old. I've been at a NASCAR track since I was the same age. So,
well, I think the neat thing too is talk about Richard and what a legend Richard and what he has meant to the sport all these years. And both the grandkids with Ty and Austin both, they hunted with us, and we have pictures of Tyler and Austin and Ty together, when they were 8, 9, 10 years old. So, obviously Richard has passed that heritage on to Mike Dillon and, of course, the grandkids with Ty and Austin. So it's been very rewarding for us. I'd like to think, like with you probably never would have done the outdoor thing, and Keelan probably would have never done the outdoor thing if we hadn't gotten connected some way. And, I was telling Tyler on the way over here, one of the biggest compliments I can say about Kevin Harvick, now where you giving us compliments, was, you and I sat in that room in 2001 after Dale had passed. And I'll never forget these words from Richard Childress when he's dressing the 3 team, now the 29 team, in that meeting on Thursday morning after the 500, him telling that crew members that on your 29 team, if I hadn't hired him, Dale was. And what a compliment to you that Richard and Dale both thought of you as a driver and your potential that you had. And here we are 20 plus years later, and it all is true. So we thank you for the same thing as well, just for what you've meant to the sport, what you've meant to us. And I think we got a lot longer to go, and we're going to turn this thing over to Keelan and Tyler. And,
that's right.
I have a 15-year-old son that Keelan knows well, too.
That's right.
So it's going to be fun to watch those guys.
Well, I appreciate you guys taking the time today. I thought it was fun to be able to tell people a little bit of the history of Realtree and everything that you guys have done in our sport and our relationship and how that has gone through the years. So thank you for listening to Kevin Harvick's Happy Hour presented by NASCAR on Fox. You can watch on YouTube or catch it on Harvick Happy Pod anywhere on social media. Thanks.
Hey, race fans, thanks for watching our video. For all NASCAR on Fox News, content, and the best clips from Fox Sports, be sure to follow and subscribe to our channel.